Welcome to this channel, everyone. Um, in this channel, we'll discuss about latest trends in machine learning and AI. Today, we are going to discuss about machine learning operations. So let's get started with introduction to what machine learning operations is. Uh, let's take an example where you need to detect broken signals um, using computer vision, right? So typically, you will create a bounding boxes and create your data set, which is X, and you will map it with a classification of broken signal as a Y. Usually, you will create your training data set, you will create a validation data set, and you will train your machine learning model. Most of the time, you will deploy this machine learning model depending upon the type of deployment into a prediction server. Depending upon the way you choose to deploy a machine learning model, um, it would be utilized by an edge device or an application. So an edge device or an application will make a request into a prediction server, and then it will return with its prediction as a response. Now, if you are doing all of these experiments into a Jupyter notebook and also you are deploying this using a Flask REST API, then it's just a 10% of the task. Still 90% of the task remains to deploy this model into production. Let me list down some of these things which you need to do. You need to containerize this application into something like a Docker file. Then you need to deploy this application. Then you need some way to monitor. So consider this example where this is predicted as a broken signal, which is absolutely wrong. First is you need some way to monitor your metric in a real-time system, as well as you want this data to be given back into your training data set when to as a feedback loop, so that you can improve your model uh, over the next iteration. So you need a monitoring. Then you need a versioning of your code. So you would use something like Git to version your code. You would require management and governance practice. So you would require an infrastructure where you can look into an end-to-end pipeline of your machine learning model. So some of these things usually take 6 to 7 months, depending upon your team size, if you want to deploy this model into production system. Let's look at what are the other important components of a machine learning model is when you deploy this into a production system. I have taken this image from a paper called Hidden Technical Debt in Machine Learning System. This was uh, published by Google. Now, when you look into your traditional building of machine learning code, that is just a 10% or a 15% of the task, right? There are other tasks which is needed to complete your ML infrastructure, something like data collection process, um, data verification process. Within data collection, you would include data annotation, collection, making sure that your data is labeled in a particular way without ambiguity, all of this. You need to do feature extraction. Once your model is built, you need a serving infrastructure to deploy this code, and then you also need model monitoring to be placed to look into this model over a period of time. Let's look at a typical life cycle of a machine learning model. Now this can act as a template for all your machine learning tasks. So let's have a look into that. So initially, when you start with your machine learning project, the most important thing is to define a project scope. Then you would define your data and you would define a baseline, and then you would annotate this data, right? So this all comes under a bucket of data management. Now, once you have your annotated data, you would select a model and train a model, right? And you would then perform error analysis. There are two scenarios, right? So one scenario is where your model has very low accuracy, then you might go from modeling step to data step to improve your data and increase the accuracy of the model. Or there might be a chance where you have good accuracy, but you still want to improve. So you would do an error analysis to check on which is the most common error which you can fix, and you might want to go back again to the data, improve your data, and build a model. Once you have your model, you can deploy this model into production, and then you can set up a monitoring and maintenance system for this model. At this stage, there's possibility that you go back to your modeling stage again to improve the model over the period of time, or you go back to your data, improve your data. If your data is too old or your data, you suddenly start seeing your um, predictions wrong, you might want to look into your data, whether your data is too old, or you might want to look into if your data has suddenly changed, right? So this is uh, ML project life cycle. In the next video, we will look into a case study and we'll go through each of these steps in detail.